Good morning. I'm Mark Stone. I'm the president and CEO of the FSHD Society in the States, and it's my pleasure and humble privilege to be with you today to present. And I want to go ahead and get started. It's early in the day, and we don't want to run late. I've been asked to talk about really the organization and why we form, and how and what we do and how we do it. And so I just have put together some slides to kind of walk us all through any organization and how we form and why we form and why we get together and how we become an effective organization, association for change. And I want to talk real quick about the formation of an organization. Why do we form? First off, an organization forms around its people. Back 30 years ago, there were two people who had FSHD here in the States, and they got together and they said, we have to do something. We have to do something. And so when people like that, a small group of thoughtful, committed people get together, they get together for a purpose. And the purpose has always been of the FSHD Society. It is one of facioscapulohumeral muscular dystrophy is one of the most prevalent forms of muscular dystrophy. It affects about 1 in 8,000, which means that in Brazil, there's 27,000 plus people that are impacted by it, along with the loved ones, their family, their friends, their extended network. And there's about 1 million people worldwide. Now, the FSHD Society, from that humble beginnings 30 years ago, has grown into the world's largest research-focused patient advocacy organization. But we can't do it alone. We recognize that. And we recognize that we are larger and stronger working together in a global alliance. But what is our purpose? What was the vision that compelled our founding fathers that still compel us today, every day to work? Our vision, our quest, our desire is to see a world, the whole world, free from the suffering caused by FSH muscular dystrophy. And consequently then, our mission is to find treatments and a cure for FSHD while we empower and encourage and educate and equip our families. So we had a small group of people that have now grown large, and they gathered together for a purpose. But if it stops there, it goes nowhere. We have a lot of people that are well-intentioned and a lot of people that might go off in several directions with all kinds of good activity. And yet the organization never makes an impact without the third ingredient. We need 3 ingredients. We need a people gathered together for a purpose. And then those people build structures to help and to empower them to serve the purpose. And those structures have 3 points to them. Every structure has a strategic vision, and that determines the destination of the organization. Where are we heading? Every structure that's good has an efficient and an effective plan. In essence, that's a path. And efficient and effective means that we're on this path, and it's a straight line. It's as straight a line as we can get to our ultimate destination. We don't want to curve around. We don't want to go here and there. We don't want to go this way when we should go that way. And so that's efficient and an effective way. And then every good structure that serves a purpose, that helps the people accomplish their goal, their vision, their mission, seeks to raise and leverage resources. And really, this is the fuel that fuels the vehicle that gets the organization to the destination. And it's around these topics that I want to talk to you for the next few minutes today. The formation of an organization. What? Develop a strategic vision. Again, I'm going to break down those three elements here. A strategic vision has to be aspirational. And what I mean by that is it has to capture the imagination. It has to be grand. It has to compel participation. It has to stir the emotion inside of someone. A strategic vision has to stir us to action. But not only is it aspirational, it has to be attainable. It has to be something that, while challenging, it's something that is achievable. It's something that I might not be able to achieve alone, but if we work together toward the common goal and the common good, we can achieve this vision. And a strategic vision has to be actionable. It has to have a step-by-step plan that's going to get us from point A to point B. It's going to get us to the ultimate vision and mission fulfillment that we want to see. But not only do we need to develop a strategic vision, we need to have an efficient and an effective organization. And this does a couple of things for us. First, this focuses us on our objective. There are many, many good things we can do. For instance, in FSHD, we could have an organization that supplies mobility devices, wheelchairs, and braces to people. And that would be a good thing to do. And yet that would not stop the progression of the disease in more and more people that have it. We could do a lot of good things, but for the FSHD Society, we are a research-focused patient advocacy organization. And what that means to us is our objective that we're focused on is funding research that will find treatments and a cure. That's our focus. That's our objective. And to run an efficient organization, focusing on that objective allows us not to go to the side or this side, but allows us to go straight ahead toward the goal. And it makes our effort count. In other words, when we invest in something, we see a multiplied return in that investment. Not always, but most of the time, because it is a very efficient and a very effective organization heading toward our strategic vision that is aspirational, attainable, and actionable. But there's a third element, as we saw, in an effective infrastructure or an effective foundation that can help serve the purpose. And that's raising and leveraging resources. It's important in every organization that is healthy to develop and to enhance several funding streams. We'll get into this in just a little bit, but to have one donor or one person that can write you a check, that's nice, but what if that one person goes away? To have one company or corporation give you money to accomplish a goal, that's nice. But what if a lot of people can give a little bit of money that can add up to a lot? That's what I mean by several different funding streams, so that if one is impacted by the economy or any number of things, the others can continue to that funding stream. A growing database of patients is valuable. It is invaluable as a resource, because this is something that pharmaceutical industries can't access, but we can as a patient advocacy organization. And then, of course, partnerships are essential. We can't do it alone. Other like-minded FSHD foundations and organizations we partner with. We partner with researchers. We partner with clinicians. We partner with biopharmaceuticals, pharmaceutical companies. We partner with other patient groups around the globe. Partnerships are essential. And so the formation of an organization which helps us accomplish the purpose that the people gathered for. And our purpose is to end FSHD. FSHD ends with me. Is to keep that strategic vision, run an effective and an efficient organization, and raise and leverage resources. Those are three absolutely necessary components to an effective organization. Now, let me dig deeper into the FSHD Society and our strategy based on what we've just heard. Our strategy, and it's three parts, following those three areas. Our strategy is to accelerate research, to speed up, to expedite treatments and a cure. As such, we launched an initiative. We call it the Therapeutic Accelerator Initiative, that is seeking to eliminate obstacles that are inherent, that are naturally in the clinical pathway of FSHD patients. And by eliminating or reducing those obstacles, therapies will get to our families down the road faster. And so we seek to accelerate research for treatments and a cure. Again, our strategy keeps us focused, that efficient and an effective organization. And we seek to enlarge and engage and empower an active global community. In essence, what we've done is we've launched a few initiatives, but we launched an initiative to create and empower local groups, both in the United States and around the world, to support the mission, to raise funds, and to encourage and empower and educate and engage one another, literally to help the community of FSHD families get larger and larger and larger and come together in active participation to accomplish our goal. And what is our goal? Treatments and a cure for FSHD. That is our goal. And likewise then, we know that we need to leverage and expand resources in order to support those two things. In order to support accelerating research and engaging an active global community, we have to raise and expand and leverage our resources so that we can support the mission. And we do this through fundraising events. We do this through appeals to individual people who can write us checks or donate money. We do this through grants, and we do this through partnering with biopharmaceuticals and companies that are in our space that we can develop mutual for benefit partnerships with. Because of our strategic vision and because of our focus plan, working together with the global community, we believe that we will have therapies to our families everywhere by 2025. Now, what is the organizational focus? How do we run an efficient and an effective organization? I want to take the privilege of telling you really a little story. The chief medical officer at Pfizer Pharmaceuticals, the world's largest pharmaceutical company, gave a talk. And she said that while we have all the technology and all the infrastructure and all the intellectual ability, more than we ever have in the history of mankind, we still have not changed the economy of what it takes to get a therapy from the researcher's laboratory into a family that's going to help them. We still haven't changed that. It actually takes between 15 and 20 years to go from the laboratory all the way through to a therapy. And usually there is 25 to 30,000 different options in order to get one therapy. And it cost about $500 million US. We've not changed that. But there was a moment in time, she goes on to say, where we did, in a short amount of time, we went from no treatments, no cures, to therapy that would save lives in 8 years. And that was during the AIDS crisis. We can also just look back last month to the vaccine and the pandemic and how we expedited that process. And she said there were only two things as she studied all of these moments and all of these movements throughout the history of therapy development and drug development and science and research. She said there are two things that make a difference. She said the first one was collective intent. And she defined that as the fusion of thought that comes from a shared sense of urgency. If we take the global pandemic, there was an urgency of the global researchers and the global pharmaceutical companies to find a solution, to find a vaccine. And they started working together instead of apart. They started collaborating instead of working in silos or in their own laboratories or in their own sections. They started sharing their thought because there was an urgency. We must find a solution. And that was what she called collective intent. And then the second thing, and the only second thing, is the patient advocate. You and me. We are the catalyst for moving things forward faster. So, how have we structured our organization around those 2 points? If you remember, our first strategic objective was to accelerate research toward treatments and a cure. In essence, we launched a therapeutic accelerator so that we can create that collective intent, that fusion of thought that comes from a shared sense of urgency globally. We have researchers all around the world, that are working on solving this problem and developing therapies for our families. We have over 12 pharmaceutical companies that are working diligently on therapies that are going to be going into patients very, very soon. We have one clinical trial right now in the States and in Europe that is looking at stopping the degradation of muscle, the DUX4 gene. And that is because we are playing an oversized role globally as we move this therapy accelerator along and eliminate these obstacles that are in our way. But we also know that it's the patient advocate, not just collective intent. And so we're seeking to enlarge and engage the FSHD patient and family community, literally globally, so that we are educated, empowered, and ready to volunteer for clinical studies, for clinical trials, literally to do whatever it takes to get therapies to our families, to our kids, to our loved ones, to our grandkids, so that they can be okay and not have muscle wasting. Now, in order to do that, as I mentioned, we have to raise and leverage resources. And with this, I want to kind of merge what we've done and what I've read just recently about some statistics right there in Brazil. The first thing we do, and the first thing you can do, is reach into family and friends of those living with FSHD. They are the most responsive, or you might say they are the bullseye, the middle. It was interesting to note through an actual survey, a global survey, that 70% of the people in Brazil donated money in the last 12 months. The average donation is there. Interestingly, you can develop a monthly giving program that could maybe have 20 reales donation a month, which would give you a little bit more than that. Online platforms for contact and donations. Literally, it's amazing the creativity that can happen when we put our minds together and we work together and we say, how can we approach our family? How can we approach our friends? How can we approach the ones we know, our loved ones with, we have a vision of a world free from FSHD, the impact, the negative impact of FSHD, but we need your help. And a little bit of help can go a long, long way when it's combined with a lot of people. We also know that there, over in the States, we have group events, we have volunteer opportunities. And what we found is that while we had people who could write us checks, and we had a very focused, smaller group of those who gave us money, there was a very large group of volunteers waiting to help us lead events and participate in events and enjoy events and volunteer for events. And I found it interesting that 53% of Brazilians have volunteered in the past 12 months in some sort of volunteer way. It shows that there is a great heart in Brazilians to help out and to follow and participate in a worthy cause that's going to accomplish a grand vision. Of course, 18 to 24 years old are much more likely to volunteer. And group events and volunteer opportunities helps raise awareness as well as raise funds that are going to help us move the mission forward. And again, creativity is the key here. We do things like walks where we gather together and we walk and people donate money to us. We do things like, play golf and people pay to play golf, or we have concerts and people pay to show up to hear music, and we raise money all kinds of ways. But it's these group events are both entertaining and engaging and also raise funds. So family and friends, we use those. That's one channel or one stream. Group events, we have volunteer opportunities that kind of broadens our base. And then business partnerships and or grants from foundations and family foundations. And really, these are catalytic gifts. This is impact funding. We might not get many businesses or many pharmaceutical industry or many grants, but when you get it, they're usually of larger size and they can make a very large impact and a large difference on helping us collectively accomplish our vision. And that's what I meant earlier when I said, make sure you have a diverse, very funding streams that are all different, that you can rely on and tap into and grow and nurture. As a matter of fact, this is just a real quick website that I found that really talks about philanthropy. It talks about donors and charitable giving in the Brazil area, in Brazil, in the country of Brazil. And so I just threw that up there for your information. As I stated before, and that's really the structure of how I think the bones, the infrastructure, the walls and the doors and the foundation and the roof to building the organization that can help you accomplish a purpose and accomplish the mission that we all want, and that's therapies to our families. Now, we have gone on record as saying that we can have, or we can see that FSHD therapies are going to get to our families by 2025. I've been criticized for that. And so I ask us, is that an aspirational dream, or is that an achievable goal? Well, let me take you through some points very quickly as we wrap up and conclude, that I think that at the end of this, you will see that it is an achievable goal. The FSHD Society and the global FSHD community are moving forward confidently because of a discovered cause. In biomedical research, if you have found out the cause of something, you can begin to work on the cure. And we know that it is one gene that is causing this, a DUX4 gene, and that we can target that gene and alter it, adjust it, modify it, or shut it off. And in other monogenetic muscle disease areas, there has already been success. And so we are very hopeful because of a discovered cause. But we're also hopeful because of a tested strategy. We have a proven methodology of what I've said, research focus, patient advocacy groups globally playing an oversized role in speeding up therapy development. So there's a discovered cause, but there's a tested strategy. This has already been done by many, many organizations like ours in other disease areas. And there is a focused plan. We have researchers and doctors and patients and industry that have come to a consensus on the obstacles with an indicated willingness to collaborate to eliminate them. As a matter of fact, the obstacles, I believe my colleague June will be outlining them right after my talk. There's 4 main big obstacles that we came to a conclusion on. As a matter of fact, what the FSHD Society and the FSHD community worldwide really does is we serve as an honest broker, a collaborator that gets all the people around the table to help us build the puzzle that's going to help us achieve our goal of a therapy to our families by 2025. We have engaged with industry, and we had industry at a meeting recently, and now we have 12 pharmaceuticals that we are working with that are developing therapies for FSHD. We have academic researchers that are doing the hard work of discovery and looking at the mechanisms of action and helping and giving us insight. We have brought all the regulatory agencies. We've to a meeting last year or year before. We invited the FDA and we invited the EMA from Europe to come and gather as we began to unpackage and look at and come to an agreement on what are the obstacles that stand in our way of getting good therapies to our families. We also, as I mentioned, work with other groups just like ours, because we, while we are the largest organization, we can't do it all. We recognize that, and we readily take help from anybody who is going to help us achieve our collective mission of a world free from FSHD. As such, we formed, or we have helped form and have helped nurture the World FSHD Alliance. Just today, I was on an alliance webinar, alliance call with 22 other countries that are all working together and all pulling together toward our common goal of a world that is free from the devastating impact of FSHD. And we have a clinical trial research network that is global. It is in Europe and it is in the States right now, but will be expanding as the years go on. And they are critical. They are a critical element to getting clinical trials done efficiently and effectively, and ultimately having the regulatory agencies approve a therapy and getting it to our families. So we bring all of these, like I said, it's a focused plan. So we have a discovered cause, a tested strategy, a focused plan, and we have aggressive timelines. I'm being criticized not because they don't, some don't think a therapy is on the horizon, but they say, wow, that's just too short. That's just too brief. But our community response empowers commitments to be made. When I meet with families with FSHD, I say there's got to be a way. We have to find a solution to this. We can't wait any longer. We need to work together toward our common goal and our common mission. Pharmaceuticals are launching trials, and they believe that we're going to be up to the task collectively to eliminate these obstacles that are in their way of getting their therapy to our families in a timely fashion. We have an experienced and passionate team of volunteer leaders and staff. We're empowering an army of activists that literally, I believe, can change our world. Indeed, it's the only thing that ever has. And we have a purposeful path. We have a global research infrastructure, as I showed you with that clinical trial research network. We launched an industry collaborative. We've identified 4 areas, not just of obstacle, but of impact. If we can impact these 4 areas, we can accomplish our goal. The VOPF is Voice of the Patient Forum, and the Voice of the Patient report went directly to the regulatory agencies, which recalibrated the bar or the threshold that a therapy has to get over. And so now the regulatory agencies, the FDA, the EMEA, they are now educated and informed about what our families want to see in a therapy that comes to them. And it matters. These things matter. Obstacle elimination projects and community empowerment. This is our path. This is our road. And like I said, we want to go as straight as possible, but we know there's going to be bends. We know there's going to be turns. As a matter of fact, this past year in 2020, COVID caused us to have to go around the bend, but we didn't want to lose any time. As I mentioned, we hosted a meeting of all of the pharmaceuticals, the regulatory agencies, researchers and clinicians and patients and patient groups were all there in Washington, D.C., and we all came to an agreement on the obstacles that were in our way. Following on that, this past year, while COVID grounded us and COVID caused us to have to alter, adjust, and change plans, we did not slow down. We began to work on those 4 obstacles. We hosted workshops. We did the Voice of the Patient Forum to the FDA. We did that virtually through a series of like a virtual webinar that the FDA and EMA could tune into and listen to our families. And we now have a report, a really thick, big report that's on our website that kind of indicates and summarizes that day. And so we are moving forward. And now we are continuing to drive projects to eliminate the existing gaps that are stopping trials from happening and stopping drugs, good, effective drugs that will stop the degradation of muscles from getting approved for FSHD. We also are growing our community. We now have 30 small groups, small local affiliate organizations or associations in the United States. As I mentioned, we've got maybe 20 countries that have signed on, and are forming a world FSHD alliance so that we can continue to move this forward more aggressively. So back to the statement, FSHD therapies to our families by 2025. Is it an aspirational dream? Possibly. Is it as an achievable goal? I believe working together, most definitely, it is an achievable goal. And one quote that I like, that I believe in, I think that a small body of determined people, fired by an unquenchable faith in their mission, can alter the course of history. I want to invite you to join all of us worldwide to be that determined group of people that are fired by an unquenchable faith in our mission that is altering the course of history for everyone that has FSHD. I believe that we are stronger together. Thank you. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your attention and for listening.